looks like the folks at Amazon have had enough of people working from home, and they are demanding that all 360,000 employees come back to the office 5 days a week. So it's being reported in the Wall Street Journal that there has been a pushback to bring everybody into the office, but it's not going off as smoothly as one would think. The 5-day policy dials back flexibility that predated the pandemic. Oh, employees are returning to find they have no desk, not enough parking, and still endless virtual meetings. Amazon told hundreds of thousands of workers to be back at their desk full time or look for another job. One hitch: in many offices, there weren't enough desks to go around. The space crunch has led the e-commerce giant to postpone the mandate at dozens of offices around the U.S. Workers assigned to some locations are still waiting to hear when they can actually go to the office full time. Others who are back in 5 days don't have any teammates in the same location. They find themselves jockeying for parking, a place to sit, and private rooms to make video calls. Amazon has been a loud voice calling for workers to get back to the office. It sent shockwaves across the tech world in September when its declaration that its 350,000 corporate employees would need to return to the office 5 days a week starting in January. And we're already in March. Those workers represent about a quarter of its total head count, which also includes warehouse workers. Having everyone in the office was critical because collaborating, brainstorming, and inventing are simpler and more effective. Chief Executive Andy Jassy told employees at the time. Amazon hired a lot during the pandemic when work was remote, and if employees leave because they don't want to go into an office, that's fine with the company. If it's not for you, then it's okay. You can go and find another company. Ooh, they're like, hey, if you don't want it, leave it. You can go and find another company if you want to, Amazon Web Services CEO Matt Garman said at a Wall Street Journal event in October. But for us, that's what we've decided is the best way to operate our company. And I guess that is the prerogative of the company. They can decide what they need, and they have to hire people who are willing to comply with their rules and regulations. Implementing this policy at a giant employer with scores of locations has run into glitches. So we talked about the lack of desks. The company is short by at least 800 desks in the region, according to a manager who has discussed the issue with a member of the facilities team. The manager cited a lack of space and parking, along with commutes that are too long now that workers need to be in 5 days a week. Nearly 600 employees added their names to the spreadsheet supporting the effort, the person said. So they're working to make sure that all the Bay Area employees have a seating assignment. So they're saying that of all the offices that they have, there's only very few that don't have the space to welcome everyone back. It's not really an issue, even though probably people are, obviously if you're the one going in and you have no desk, it is an issue, but Amazon is like, this is a blip. But some employees are saying that they scramble to find parking. One of the employees in the Austin office said he's been working there for 10 years, and when he had to report back to the office, he couldn't find parking. He said, and he went on Twitter to report that there are 2,000 employees and only 900 parking spaces. As part of the return to office plan, some of the operations were consolidated. Some employees were ordered to relocate to a handful of cities across the U.S. So not only they have to go back to work, they might even have to relocate. What a mess. If you're in Europe, those cities were London, Paris, or Munich. Some employees would have been required to move out of the countries where they were working. Oh, wow. The company put the requirement on hold in Europe after some employees complained that it violated local laws. You know, the Europeans, they don't play with their employee. Imagine if you moved to Miami and to work at Amazon, and then they told you we're closing the Miami office and now you have to move to Chicago and you have kids. That's a mess. You might be quitting, or you might have to leave your family and be, going home on the weekends. So there's going to be a few people that are inconvenienced by this, at least, hundreds of people, maybe not thousands, but at least, maybe close to 1,000, but probably not that many. That's what Amazon seems to be saying. So one person wrote on LinkedIn, giving her account of what it was like to be back in the office, and she said that she had to sit in 3 different desks, right? Because she didn't have an assigned desk. None of the people that on her team were in the same location. She had to store her belongings in a locker overnight or bring them home. So she's saying that she's not as productive as she's before. But you know what? I think people just like to complain, to be honest. I feel like when there's a change, it's hard for people to adopt easily to a change. So there's going to be some growing pains. And I think this is really what's happening, and people will say, oh, I'm not productive. They'll get back into the productivity of it. And this is her post. She wrote, as productive as before? Nope. Riffing, community culture, buzzing with creativity? Nope. And then worth it? Nope. Even though a lot of people have had to go back to the office, what they're finding is people are still doing virtual calls. But I think this is just a transitional period. It has to start off shaky. It's just like when everybody had to work from home. We had to get used to it, and it's going to be the same. We're going to get used to going back to the office 5 days a week. It's going to become very normal, like it used to be, and all of these kinks will be worked out soon enough. Amazon is saying that, yes, you have these one or two sort of disgruntles or antidotes, but overall it's a success. People are saying that great energy across their offices. Even people who were officially remote workers had to report in. And one such person was a woman named Leela Smith. She's a senior technical writer. She left the company after being there for 10 years because under this new policy, she would have had to commute 65 miles each way from the outskirts of Olympia, Washington to Seattle, or file for a medical exemption because she has a disability. But she wasn't confident that her exception would be approved, so she left. Another person who left, this person named John, he was an AI scientist. He had been at Amazon for 12 years. And he said that before 2020, so before the pandemic, there was a lot more flexibility. Nobody cared where they worked. Nobody was very concerned about attendance. They were just focused on getting their job done. But now that sort of has changed. And he also left the company. He'd been there for 12 years. Okay, so that's it. Work from home is coming to an end. That's a new era. We're going back to the era where people have to go to the office 5 days a week. Leave a comment below. How do you feel about this? Are you ready to go back into the office 5 days a week? I think one of the main things that people who have moved sort of remote into sort of more space, bigger homes or more quiet communities and have to like commute 65 miles or whatever, something serious like that, will probably have to either quit their job, find a new job, because it doesn't seem really feasible that somebody's going to commute. I mean, there are people who commute 100 miles or so, but you would really have to have quite a good salary to make it worth it. And then thinking about your family and back to that whole cycle of overwork employees, commuting, and spending half your time commuting. I think for us here in New York, it's probably a great thing because I know a lot of the offices, for commercial real estate is probably a really good thing because all those companies had to shut down because people weren't coming into the city. But now that people have to come back into work, those things are going to come back. Like restaurants will come back. People will need to go places to eat, to get their hair cut, to do their laundry, to shop. It's going to bring a resurgence of people and a community back into cities, back into work. Work is going to become more of a place where people socialize and spend most of their time, as opposed to what we have been living for the last, what, 5 years since the pandemic. So leave a comment below. What do you think? Are you excited about going back into the office, or is this filling you with dread? We want to know.